Hello, my name is Michelle Dennis, and I'm a collaborator volunteer with Public Democracy Los Angeles, which is also the sponsor of this video. I'm also a member of the team that helped prepare the video. Public Democracy Los Angeles is a nonprofit coalition dedicated to making Los Angeles a more equitable, representative, and responsive democracy. Our immediate mission is to stand up an officially sponsored Citizens Assembly for Angelenos on a topic of broad public concern by 2026. The video you are about to watch presents three experts in the design and implementation of citizens' assemblies. Throughout the world, citizens' assemblies are also known as citizens' juries and civic assemblies. The experts have worked extensively with citizens' assemblies in Europe, Australia, and North America. The City Manager of Petaluma, California, will also be sharing with you what difference a Citizens Assembly made for the city of Petaluma. Petaluma was the site of the first Citizens Assembly in California. They will all share with you why implementing a Citizens Assembly in your jurisdiction is a very good idea, not only to help you resolve and solve some very difficult public policy issues, but to also enhance governance, increase public trust in government, and bridge gaps between citizens and their government. Here is a bit of information about each speaker. Art O'Leary is the Chief Executive Officer of the Electoral Commission of Ireland. Art has worked with many citizens' assemblies in Ireland. Iain Walker is the Executive Director of newDemocracy Foundation in Australia. Iain has led over 20 citizens' assemblies. Linn Davis. Linn is the Program Director for Healthy Democracy. He has co-designed and managed 15 major lottery-selected deliberative events, from city-level lottery assemblies to statewide citizens' initiative reviews. Peggy Flynn. Peggy is the City Manager of the City of Petaluma, California. With more than 25 years of public sector experience, she has been city manager since 2019. Well, here's what they have to share with you as you possibly consider implementing a citizens' assembly in your jurisdiction.
Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be with you. Greetings from a very sunny Dublin, and I don't get to say that very often. I'd like to talk to you today about Ireland's experience with citizens' assemblies. You know, we stumbled across citizens' assemblies as a mechanism for making decisions and policy development in this country. In the last 2 years, I've spoken in 53 different countries about Ireland's experience with citizens' assemblies because it has been such a positive one. You know, it has provided the political system with solutions to some of the most intractable political problems that have existed in this country for generations. If you take the issue of abortion in this country, Holy Catholic Ireland, for the last 60 years has been unable to have a civilized conversation around abortion. And in 9 months, a citizens' assembly provided the answer to this particular problem by giving the political system access to the citizens' perspective on this problem and offering a solution to this as well. The political system was very nervous about citizens' assemblies on this particular issue because of the long and difficult track record we have had with it. But the Citizens Assembly itself made some very radical recommendations which the political system didn't think, our politicians didn't believe the Irish people would approve. But in the room, our 100 citizens made a recommendation and voted 67 to 33 in favour of this new regime for reproductive women's health. When the question was put to the Irish people, the result was 66-34. Citizens' assemblies work because they offer a solution to problems which the political system can't seem to get their heads around, because for many reasons, good and bad. There are two main criticisms of citizens' assemblies, and they've happened all over the world exactly the same way. One is people say, well, we already have a citizens' assembly. It's called Congress. Why do we need a group of unelected individuals when we pay politicians to make all of these decisions? I always say, in answer to this criticism, citizens' assemblies are not a threat to the political system. They are a support. They help politicians make decisions and develop policy by giving them support for a particular course of action, by offering solutions to. For 90 of the last 100 years, Ireland has made decisions using three mechanisms, basically. One, we elect politicians with a manifesto to go into government and to make decisions. Secondly, people like me, civil servants, people in grey suits, public officials, offer some policy advice on issues. And thirdly, we always engaged with some serious engaged stakeholders. All a citizens' assembly is a fourth leg to this three-legged stool, by using all of those other mechanisms, but adding citizens into the process to help politicians marry those solutions together with some possible solutions which might be acceptable to people in a region or in a country. The second criticism that there normally is that this is just a big focus group, and that why on earth would you put a group of people, representative group of people in a room when we've got so many experts in the field to make decisions and recommendations for us? The big difference between a focus group and a citizens' assembly is this. With a focus group, we put a representative group of people into a room and we ask them questions. So what's your favorite breakfast cereal? Who's your favorite political party leader? Who does your life insurance? What do you think the government should do about abortion or marriage equality or any of these other issues? And the polling company who runs the focus group writes down the answers and publishes the news. Here's what the Irish people think about a particular issue. With the Citizens Assembly, we put 100 people, representative of Irish society, into a room and we fill them with information. We make them experts in the subject matter that they are looking at. So whether it's abortion or marriage equality or electoral systems or climate change or any of these big problems, at the end of this process, we ask the people, what do you think we should do about climate change or abortion as well? So they give us an informed opinion as opposed to an uninformed opinion of a focus group. This is the main reason that we use citizens' assemblies in this country. It has transformed Irish society. And our most recent Citizens Assembly, we're always asking them questions. We asked them on their first day, the 100 citizens who started off the Citizens Assembly process, we asked them why they agreed to get involved. Because if for us, it's 5 or 6 or 7 weekends over the course of a year for a very small amount of money. And the 1/3 of our citizens came back with the answer that citizens' assemblies are the way that Ireland now gets hard jobs done. And I don't think there can be a better endorsement than that. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm Iain Walker from the newDemocracy Foundation. We're a democratic reform foundation in Australia. Really simple outlook. We think what constrains politicians and impairs public trust is that we've built a system incredibly responsive to public opinion, which is what people think when they haven't had time to think. Now, journalists will ask you, they'll push you to show leadership and ignore public opinion. We don't think that's really viable. We think what's preferable is you create a public judgment mechanism. It's akin to the criminal jury. We wouldn't do a phone poll of 1,000 people. If you or I got arrested, we'd give it to a small group of people, ask them to consider diverse and contested evidence and find common ground. By and large, the public trusts it. So I think our message starts with, if judges can find juries complementary, can city officials and other people in elected office find this the same way? Here in Australia, we've worked a lot with cities. In 2014, the City of Melbourne had a significant budget issue. As one of the councillors said, it's Not that we can't resolve this ourselves, we can't even discuss it. What citizens do is give you a great starting point. If you're feeling very constrained into a little matchbox of options, if you ask citizens an open question, such as how can we live within our means? And we take a representative sample of the population and ask them to answer that question in detail, make it specific, measurable, actionable, show your reasoning, show your evidence. If that group of people from all walks of life, old and young, rich and poor, all different backgrounds come together, white collar and blue collar don't often mix. We put those people in one room. If they can find agreement like a jury, 80 or 90% of those people saying this is fair enough, then we think that empowers elected leaders to act. Here in Australia, some of these projects have been so effective at restoring the financial health of local government that we now have the Victorian Local Government Act of 2020, which requires this form of deliberative engagement on 4-year financial plans and the accompanying council plans, which detail all the services that will be provided through to councils. What are we really asking you to do? It's not to give up power, it's to expand your power by having an informed group of people standing behind you. One of the greatest assets in politics is actually having regular people saying, I reckon that's okay. If you're prepared to ask an open question, that's the asset a Citizens Assembly will give you. A perfect place to start is in things where you've been constrained for 10 or more years because of that backlash that'll come from public opinion. And all we're really asking you to buy into is 5 simple principles. Speak to a representative group of the population, which we pick by a lottery, roughly matched to the census profile by age, gender, and wealth, but a very simple representative selection. We're asking you to let them be exposed to diverse and contested information, including information sources of their own choosing. This is really important for public trust in an era where everyone gets information pushed at them. If you're going to take a representative group and if you're going to ask them to consider diverse and contested information, you've got to build an extended time format. Commonly, this will be 6 or 7 meetings across 3 to 4 months. And yes, we pay people for attendance, much like jury duty. Fourthly, we ask them an open question and let them have a free response. If you want, what's the asset you want to generate? You want to generate a group of people saying, we did this. Letting them freely write their responses of the services and how they balance that budget is the key starting point. And the 5th point, how do you get people to do all this? Pre-agree a level of authority. This does not mean you're giving up power. Really, it says that their work is public upon completion. It says that you'll respond in a fixed time period. In Australia, commonly 60 days. That you will give them a detailed and substantive response. And lastly, after you've prepared that response, that elected officials, the mayor and a number of councillors will meet to go through and discuss the nuance. We often hear the phrase a public conversation or a national conversation. It doesn't mean a lot. Hopefully what I get a sense of, this is a way to have a very genuine national or public conversation. And if you can do that, who do we trust most? Well, we trust people like ourselves. A citizens format like this will actually generate those people from all walks of life where the wider community will see people like themselves in decisions. And we think you can reach very trusted and very difficult decisions based on trade-offs, not on wish lists. So we hope you take a closer look at the method.
Hello, I'm Linn Davis. I'm one of the program directors at a nonpartisan nonprofit called Healthy Democracy, which is one of the U.S. leaders in designing civic assemblies. In our current political moment, most of us see government as an external entity, something floating out there that does things to us or for us. We might vote, and a few of us might volunteer in our neighborhoods or offer opinions on surveys, but we are mostly subject to this entity, for better and worse. We're not in it, and it is not us. And that's not a situation we believe our system of government can survive. And we have more of a chance at the local level than anywhere else to remedy that relationship. When we become policymakers ourselves, then government becomes less an entity and more a tool that we all use. And isn't that what democracy is? Civic assemblies are emphatically not a silver bullet, but we believe they are a key missing piece. I've been working on them now for over 8 years, and there's nothing that inspires me more, that all of us, even in this torn apart country, have the capacity to tackle our toughest, most complex issues together. Here's where I think assemblies add to our current systems. First, they add representation. Everyday people, just like us, chosen from among us, working on the issues that we care about. There are many great ways that we're working toward better representation in elected office, in appointed positions, in the civil service. What's different about assemblies is they do not work toward representation. They guarantee it every single time. And they allow for cross-sectional representation across many categories at once: demographic, geographic, even political. Second, they add universality, a rare level of accessibility across the board through payment, accommodation, universal design, and personal care. If we are to make the best decisions we can make, then everyone, yes, everyone, is essential. Here's the situation we have now. We did a program a few years ago related to affordable housing. A woman was selected through the Democratic lottery, but when we talked to her, she said, I'd love to help, but I don't think I'm qualified. Turns out she lived in rent-controlled housing. Her sister lived in subsidized housing. She had some personal experience with just about every kind of affordable housing out there. It would be tough to find anyone who was more qualified. But this happens without fail in every single program we do. We, the public, are not used to our experience being essential, and that has to change. Third, they model a fundamentally different kind of political architecture, one that is built to foster collaboration at its core and to channel conflict toward productive ends, not destructive ones. The first assembly I worked on during the 2016 election here in Oregon, we designed a process on one of the most esoteric policy topics you can think of: corporate sales taxes. There are two people in the room who I'll never forget. A Republican from a town of about 1,000 in Southern Oregon, starched shirt, slacks, and a Democrat from Portland, red hair, tattoos. You can see where this is going. Day one, they're both asking leading questions, making political points across the room. I thought, oh yeah, here we go, as expected. Day two, their questions are more curious. They're working on subcommittees together. By day four, they're friends, at lunch, choosing to work together on the nitty-gritty of the technical language. That's not kumbaya, that's real life. And that's how most of us are capable of working, how we want to work together, even across our greatest divides, if only the structure and the support is there for us. 4, they have impact. Not a promise that what they're doing matters, but a gravity that is intrinsic to the work itself and its placement within the rest of the civic infrastructure. In Oregon, we designed a system where a lottery-selected assembly of everyday people reviewed ballot measures and wrote information directly for the voters' pamphlet. Their power was directly with voters. In Petaluma, as you'll hear from the city manager, we designed a process where an assembly took in information from dozens of sources, most that it had selected, and had independent power to take its recommendations directly to the two key decision-making bodies. No intermediaries, no repackaging and consultants' words in glossy reports. Today, virtually none of us will ever be deeply involved in any policy decision that affects us in any genuinely powerful way at any point in our entire lives. Consider that. That is untenable. We need governance to be a thing we don't have to fight for, where the system is designed from the ground up to give us a place, where my voice matters not because I'm the loudest or the richest or even because I've fought the hardest, but simply because I'm a human being and I'm here and I matter. Our democracy needs to be filled with processes that are designed to guarantee that we're in them and that we matter. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you'll join us in this effort.
Hi, my name is Peggy Flynn, and I am the city manager for the city of Petaluma. And I understand that you may be considering a lottery selected panel of your residents for your jurisdiction. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about how Petaluma launched our lottery selected panel back in 2021 and 2022 regarding our 55-acre fairgrounds property in the center of our city, which had been a decades-long issue and battle between the state and the city. And we definitely have a very engaged populace here in Petaluma. I call it people-powered Petaluma for a reason, because we have very engaged community. We have very robust council-appointed committees and commissions, actually almost 36 of them. And for a city of 60,000. So let me be clear, we have a very, very engaged community. However, we have done the traditional ways of engagement, and typically we hear from the same voices, which for this decades-long issue that has been kind of plaguing our city and kind of keeping us from moving forward. It's like I said, it's a 55-acre parcel in our city that's city-owned, but that we abdicated to the state for $1 a year to run a 5-day fair. And the rest of the year, our residents could never be on that property. And so knowing that we would probably have World War III come to council at the end of this to make the final decision, even if we could point to a very robust engagement process, we still weren't hearing from the voices that we don't typically hear from, whether it's in our general plan process, whether it's our budgeting. And so we teamed up with Healthy Democracy, a nonprofit out of Oregon, to appoint 36 residents from our community via lottery selection, and it was based upon oversampling for K-12 demographics. So we'd really get to those demographics that we never hear from: renters, seniors, people of color, our homeless population, youth, just the typical, the people that don't have the privilege of coming to a council meeting, that don't have the time, that don't have the resources to come to our council meetings. So we had 36 residents that accepted the challenge via lottery, getting that letter in the mail saying, hey, you've been selected to serve on the Fairgrounds Advisory, and worked with this group of folks, paying them for their time, $25 an hour, elder care, child care technology, and they studied this topic for 90 hours to come up with a consensus of what that vision could be for our fairgrounds. Mm. And the beautiful thing was that our council thought out of the box. They were bold and said, all right, we want to walk the talk. We keep saying we want to hear from our residents. And this truly allowed us to do that. It didn't abdicate council's responsibility, nor did it take away any decision-making authority. It just took our community engagement up 10 notches and really built a lot of credibility from the city about really engaging those who traditionally have never been at the table. And I would say that was probably the single most important decision that the council made, because once the panel unveiled their thoughts and ideas for the fairgrounds, it was not only was it widely accepted by the community, but council could easily say, we heard from the community and this is what they said. Not only that, but we built a lot of leadership out of those 36 residents. A lot of them have now come into the fold of city government and I have applied for committees and commissions, have actually looked to join city council. And so we're building leaders in our community who would have never seen themselves in their city government. And there's a level of trust that we trust our residents enough to know what they want for their community. And ultimately, isn't that what we want for our community?